Hey guys, how's it going? So today's review is going to be on the G-Squared Banshee, okay? Spoiler alert, this thing, it's good, okay? It's good. It's a really freaking good yo. So brief introduction, I was talking to Jacob Gross, who's the owner of G-Squared, right? And we were talking about, yo-yoing and generally like competition stuff and competition yo-yos. And I was telling him how, ever since I left Word, I've been in this dilemma about not knowing what to generally use. And he said, well, if you like the irony, I'm making something that's kind of similar to it. So what he did was, he went ahead and sent me a prototype Banshee, right, which looks like that. And this yo-yo played alright, but it kind of reminded me of the Gradient. Now, if you stack these yo-yos side by side, they're very similar, right? And here's the JPX kind of for comparison as well. So that was the Banshee V2, I think. This was the Gradient, and this is the Iron JPX. So out of the three, the Banshee V2 didn't really strike out at me as, a solid... I mean, it was definitely a nice yo-yo, but it was still in its prototype phase. It still had a lot of vibe. It wasn't, perfectly tweaked out yet, but it reminded me of the Gradient, which, I like, but not as a competition yo-yo. So I kind of just left it at that and was like, alright, well, the Banshee's alright, but, I'm still a fan of the Irony JPX. Then Jacob goes ahead and releases the 3rd edition, right? And this is the final production run. This thing is dead smooth. It's got an anode that's fully bead blasted, and it's super solid. So if you guys want to know the difference between all the Banshees, Jacob has a video on that where he kind of details and explains it. I feel as if the guy who made it will explain a lot better than me, so you guys can go ahead and check that out there. And I will continue with the review on this thing. So, this is an up and close look of the Banshee version 3, which is also the final version. As you can see here, it's got a really nice color, and it's also been really richly bead blasted, so it's really good for grinds. The body is made from 6061 aluminium, and it has quite a long axle, actually. I feel as if it has a 10mm axle, and it has a grooved bearing there, like so. So right here, it's got a different kind of pad than usual. So normal pads will be 19mm, and obviously this looks a little bit different to that. So it has a very well balanced weight of 66 grams. Unlike the Gradient that had a very odd weight distribution, the Banshee's is very normal, and it's actually quite powerful. So it's a really nice balance to it, and it's, a solid yo-yo. It also has a really wide flared out design, which reminds me a lot of the JPX, and it also reminds me a lot of the Gradient. So this shape is a really awesome shape. I personally am a really big fan of this shape. And yeah, it's just really easy to catch and super solid for those horizontal tricks or those speedy tricks that you generally do to try and win competitions. In terms of playability, the Banshee plays dead smooth. So when I was at Word, we used to have this grading system where we throw a yo-yo down and we kind of measure the vibration of how basically much a yo-yo vibed. If it was an 8, you'd pass it and you'd allow it to get shipped for manufacturing. If it was anything below that, you'd mix it with different halves and try and twist it and turn it and tune it until it got to that acceptable level. If it didn't, it was a B grade and was never sold and just lying around Word HQ somewhere. But this plays like a 10. It is dead smooth. I know I made a whole video about oh, I don't really care about dinging yo-yos anymore, they're just tools, it doesn't really bother me anymore. If I ding this, it would hurt. It would still hurt. The shape is optimal for those horizontal based tricks that I love to do, and it's also really solid for speedy tricks, but on the other hand, it's also got a very neutral weight distribution, so it can do those intricate style tech tricks as well. Overall, it's a really solid yo-yo. There was some major improvements, major overhauls from the V2, and it definitely plays... It has some of its roots based in the V2, but it's basically an entirely different, better yo-yo. The V3 Banshee is 100 times better than the V2. It's basically everything worked out, everything working harmoniously to make a really, really solid yo-yo. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Banshee. I know I didn't really fault it in any way, but that's honestly because I don't really find anything wrong with it. It's just a really, really nice yo-yo. The only thing I'd probably say that would be mildly inconvenient is that it requires flowable silicone as its response system. Obviously not everyone knows how to put in a flowable silicone response system. It's tedious, it's time consuming. I've got a tutorial on it, so you can go ahead and check that out there, but that would be the only thing about the Banshee that I would say is a little bit annoying, but other than that, this yo-yo plays absolutely beautifully. It is a masterpiece. It's basically, because I had a chance to try out the prototype, which was iffy, now that I've seen like the polished version 3, I'm super, super impressed with this thing. It's one of my favorite yo-yos in my collection. So for those of you guys who are asking me like, alright, we can't buy JPX, and you don't seem to like the gradient very much, what do you think what's a good substitute? I would definitely recommend the Banshee. It's great, it's really, really solid. It doesn't play exactly like a JPX. There are obviously a lot of differences here and there. They're different yo-yos, they're made by different manufacturers, but generally they're similar and they're both really, really good. So if you guys want something that's close to a JPX, I'd recommend a Banshee. Also, I'm pretty sure they are being sold right now. So I'm not sure about where exactly they're being sold, but go ahead and check the description. So if you guys want to buy a Banshee, go ahead and click the link in the description. Don't message me about it. I don't really know where the Banshees are distributed. Message Jacob Gross if you guys want a Banshee. And yeah, those are my thoughts on the Banshee. Any comments, questions, criticisms, post them down below. And I will see you guys next time.